should the Adeleye versus TKV fight be ruled a no contest? Before we do that, let's have a look at the VT from the fight on Saturday night.
TKV and it's making him, I'm not too sure what it was that he was... Oh, what a punch from David Adeleye! He's there! Is the power? Can he get up from that? TKV looks at his corner. Can he fight on? The legs are gone. He doesn't really know where he is here. TKV, he's getting a little bit of extra time, but David Adeleye could be on the verge of the brutal knockout. He promised. It's all Adeleye now. Left hand, TKV down for the second time. And he's again looking at his corner. The count's at 5. The eyes are in orbit. The legs are not there. The fight's going to be stopped here, I think. Can he go on? No. David Adeleye becomes the British heavyweight champion. And after being outboxed, the boys called it the power.
That footage was, of course, courtesy of DAZN. You were obviously commenting on the fight for talkSPORT.
Yeah.
You were unhappy with this situation, as was I. I mean, what's...
I was unhappy with the referee situation.
Yeah.
I think the referee there, should it be ruled a no contest? I would say no, it shouldn't be. The rematch should be ordered immediately after because of the refereeing of that contest. The referee was a huge problem. He was the one that called break. You've got to get physical. The fight was dirty anyway. That happened. Jeamie TKV done that to David Adeleye earlier on in the fight. The referee didn't take control of the fight. He should have jumped in the middle of them.
Asserted himself.
Yeah, but he just sort of tapped Jeamie TKV's left hand. Jamie's looked round and got knocked spark out, but the referee's nowhere to be seen. You can't just call break. You've got to get physical because that was a very physical fight. It wasn't very attractive to watch right from the opening bell. It was one of those fights that the referee needed to take control of, and he didn't.
Before I get your two guys' opinion, I had TKV and David on the show earlier on. Let's listen to what they had to say.
Jeamie, if you go back in the ring, as now looks likely, as we have worked out this morning with David Adeleye, do you have full confidence in the officiating?
Yeah, just because mistakes were made, and no one makes the mistakes like this twice, especially with everyone watching. I don't think that mistake will be made again. So I feel like the officiating would be better. I believe the boxing board will put a better referee in that ring. Not saying he's a bad referee, but like a referee that will be able to deal with the situation better.
Do you feel that on the night before what happened, you had his number, that you were going to come out on top?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I knew it, and it was happening, we was on our way, but stuff happens.
And in a rematch, you'll put it right?
I'll put it right in the rematch, 100%.
Are you prepared to give Jeamie TKV a rematch?
Definitely, I think it's the best thing to do. I think it just gives clarity on both ends. Like I said it yesterday publicly, I said it after the fight. We'll more than likely meet again, just do a rematch, and go from there.
Fair play to David, by the way, on that observation. I mean, what do you make of it, Moses? Do you feel for Jeamie?
I don't want to make this all about me, but obviously it happened, and obviously I'm close with Jeamie and I'm good friends with him. Obviously we spar a lot. We obviously we're in the same gym. But what I do take from that situation is knowing that can't happen to me. Like I now see that David is not Team Jeamie, Jamie's not Team David. And I don't blame either one of them fighters, because if that opportunity was handed to me, I would have done the same thing. And yes, I would blame the ref because, okay, cool, fair enough. Jeamie did do that same thing to David in round 2. Obviously, the ref said break and Jeamie punched him. But then what happened? The ref put them together. They said, like, listen, you got to listen to me. When I say break, you take step back, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But when David done that and he knocked Jeamie out, he gets rewarded for that. So I don't think that's a fair shake. Obviously, like I said, I don't blame David, I don't blame Jeamie. I do think the fight should get overturned or whatnot. I think the minimum the ref could have done was at least gave Jeamie like a 5-minute break or something. But
to get him back,
the problem is when you get hit with a good headshot, it's like you're in a dream. You ain't really there. So
if this had happened to Moses, Francis, would you have appealed immediately?
Yes, I would. but I don't think it would have got anywhere. And that's because I think, you know, it's one of those. I think a rematch is the best idea here. But once you start ruling no contests and just, you know, if it was a DQ, everyone said, because it happened in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, didn't it? With the shot after the bell. And now the rematch is happening because we want some clarity and clarification on who's the best fighter of the night. And I think that's the best way forward. Had it happened to Moses, yes, obviously I'd be screaming for rematches, as everyone in Jamie's camp was. But I think for the good of boxing, I think if we start going down the no contest route every time there's a bit of controversy, then we're never going to get anywhere. We're never going to, you know, it's going to be a bit of a mess.
It's a route to.
So I think a rematch is. I don't think it needs to be ordered, as David Adeleye has come forward and said, let's get this done. Let's find out who the best man is.
Well, we're joined by someone who's very invested, David Adelaye's trainer, Adam Booth. Adam, welcome to the show. Nice to see you, mate.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. You've heard what everyone's had to say on the incident. What's your take on it all, Adam?
We can look at the incident as a standalone moment and then also look at the context of the fight. From the very first round, Jeamie set his stall out that he was going to try and rough David up on the inside. He elbowed him in the face and he pushed his palm into David's face as well. In the first round, and nothing happened. The referee sort of half mumbles or says, you know, don't do that. But nothing, there's no penalty. He kept doing it. Then I think at the end of the fourth round, the start of the fifth, Jeamie started grabbing hold a little bit more as well. Now, David was waiting on the inside. The referee called break twice in the fifth round. Jeamie hits David with a clean right hand where his shoulder actually turns through the shot as well. The referee says to Jeamie, don't do that again. David, are you okay? Carry on. That was the right thing to do, except by this point, Jeamie had sort of infringed a few times, and I think the referee could have been a bit firmer on him. So then, at the end of the fifth round, I said to David, he's just trying to do to you what Fabio did. You're falling for the same mistake. Do not sleep on the inside, put your hand in the right position, and don't wait. You can't trust the referee. So next round, the incident happens. But if you actually look at it, David closes his left hand up to protect himself from Jamie's right hand. After the second call of break, Jeamie's the first one to do something. He actually digs David in the ribs after the second call of break. David automatically assumed it was business as usual on the inside and threw the shot. The difference between that and the previous round is that David took the shot that landed, but Jeamie couldn't. And now we have that controversy. Had Jeamie been able to take that shot,
but you can't. Adam,
then the referee
I hear all the background and I understand it, but you can't be suggesting that the outcome was fairly orchestrated by the fact that the referee was so poor during the fight in consistency that ultimately the outcome that Jeamie had reaped upon him is a fair outcome.
No, I'm not saying it is a fair outcome. And David and I spoke on Sunday morning and said, let's do the rematch, let's do it right. Dave didn't box well in the early rounds, and the finish is inconclusive and unfair. I'm not saying it's not unfair on Jeamie,
right?
But I think it would be unfair on David to call it a no contest, especially when David's prepared to give him the immediate rematch.
Agrees. Can I ask you, because I was disappointed in David's performance, I expected more from him, and I felt it was a very lacklustre performance. I mean, you discussed it, Spence. We sort of sat there thinking that they both looked at one another and there wasn't a lot going on in the fight. So, I mean, what did you make? Adam, you set him up, he's your charge, he's enamoured with you. I could have spent half an hour listening to him talk about you in another studio, about how much he thinks of you, but I was surprised at his performance, Adam.
Yeah, well, he knows I'm disappointed in what he did in the early rounds as well, because he could have been so much better and done so much more in the early rounds, to the point where I said to him, okay, well, listen, in the fourth, I sent him out to put the pressure on Jeamie and make Jeamie start to breathe heavy and start to melt him, because at long range, David wasn't doing what he was supposed to have done with his legs. But that's all part of the learning process, and that's all part of improving as a fighter. David knows he can whack, and he knew he could hurt Jeamie, and that was probably also a little bit of complacency on his part. So for me, I love the rematch because it gives David an opportunity to show himself and me that he can do it the right way.
Adam, do you see it being the rematch, an immediate rematch, so we get that fight next between the two? Because I think we had David in the studio, like he said, he's happy to do that, go there. Is that the case?
It's exactly what we're saying, an immediate rematch. There's no need to wait. Now, Jeamie will obviously have a suspension probably for 30 days.
Yeah.
28
so we
days.
can definitely get we can definitely get this fight on before the end of before we get to August. 100%. Let's talk about something else as well. Like, this is boxing, this is combat sport, this is fighting, and you know that you have to protect yourself at all times, but you also have to be a big boy and take responsibility for what goes on. If someone roughs you up and gets away with it, my advice to my fighters as a coach is that you do it straight back to them. And what played out in the fight was just the pattern of the fight. I think the problem we had with the referee is that you had two big dudes in there and not a big referee. Now, the Boxing Board of Control give referees 3 commands. Stop boxing, box on, and break. If the referee physically feels like he can't impose himself on 2 big fellas mauling each other, then he should just use the phrase, stop boxing.
If he physically feels like he can't impose himself on them two, then he shouldn't be in there. That's where I'm at with it. I think that.
Well, not necessarily. No, not necessarily.
No, but you're right in what you say. Hold on one sec. You're right in what you say. I think that it was always a physical fight. It was going to be a dirty fight, and the referee had to take control of it. And for me, Adam, from the beginning of the contest, he didn't take control.
Yeah, and you're just agreeing with my point, and it started in the first round. Now, the referee doesn't have to be a big guy. The referees are supposed to use their words to control the fighters. And all you have to do is bark the word stop. That's it. It's very easy. And once you've stopped them with your words, you then say break, step back. But there was a lot of tapping of the gloves. Something happened in the previous fight that really didn't look good, where the ref pulled the guy's arm down and opened him up for a right hand that dropped him. So all this touching of fighters and pulling of the arms and tapping of the hands down, I don't agree with. I think the referees should be positive, clear what they say. In the change room before the fight, I always ask the referee, if one arm is locked and the other arm is free, can we keep working? And he said, yes. Keep working if you got one arm free. He reiterated it a second time in the changing room because I knew that was going to play out in the fight. Ironically, in the 5th round, David made that same sleepy mistake that he made against Fabio Wardley. But in the 6th round, it turned around the other way. So I think, personally, I think it's a lesson for refereeing, and hopefully we can get a bit more clarity as to how they deal with these big fellas in these situations. But also a lesson to the fighters: do not sleep on the inside. Don't rely on the referee, because ultimately you're responsible. It says protect yourself at all times, and that's just not with your defence, but that's with your attack. And I think everyone agrees. Jeamie did nothing wrong, really. It was a rough fight. It wasn't the most entertaining for a few rounds. David did nothing wrong. So I don't think David should be punished. And I think that Jeamie should get his immediate chance to prove himself.
Adam, which looked like it's going to happen. Listen, thanks for joining us, mate, and make sure that you come into the studio and see us soon, yeah?
Thanks a lot. See you soon.
See you, mate.